Hi there. In this video, we're going to talk about some properties of determinants. So we can have just a 2 by 2 determinant consisting of A1, B1, A2, and B2. So what we can do is we can interchange these rows and these columns. So the column would become a row and the row would become a column. And if we do that, we'll still get the same value of the determinant if we evaluate it. For example, row 1 is A1, B1, and if row 1 becomes column 1, then we're going to have A1, B1, and then row 2, which is A2, B2, becomes column 2. That's A2, B2. So when it comes to determinants, we can swap around the rows and columns, and then we will still get the same answer. So another property is that we can take these rows and columns and we can interchange them. We can now, instead of swapping the rows and columns, we can change between columns. So let me just explain what I mean. If we have A1 and B1 and A2 and then B2, so what we can do is we can, for example, swap row 1 and row 2. So we write row 2 at the top. So we have A2, B2, and then A1, B1. So we have swapped row 1 and row 2. But if we do that, we'll still get the same numerical value of the determinant, but there will be a minus in front. So the determinant of this is equal to the determinant of this, but with a minus there. So if we swap any of the rows or any of the columns, we're essentially changing the sign of the determinant. So another property is if we take our same determinant, so that's A1, B1, A2, and B2. So let's just say we take row 1 and we multiply it by a factor. So we have some KA1 and then KB1. So we'll get our determinant A1, B1, A2, B2. But the entire determinant is multiplied by this factor K. So if we multiply this first row or the first column or even the second row or second column, any of the rows or any of the columns by a certain factor K, then it's the value of the determinant multiplied by that factor K. And then lastly, the final property that I want to talk about, A1, B1, A2, B2, we can take, for example, column 1 and subtract column 2 from it, and we will still get the same determinant. So we take A1 and then we either add or subtract B1, and then A2 we either add or subtract B2. We have taken this column and subtracted from it column 2. When we do that, we will still get the value of our original determinant, A1, B1, A2, B2. So we can do that for any of the rows or any of the columns. For example, we can take row 1 and then subtract from it row 2. It still wouldn't change the value of that determinant. So we can actually make use of these properties to actually simplify some of the calculations that we want to perform. So let's use one of these properties to actually make our life easier to evaluate some kind of determinant. So we can have 427 and then 429 and then 369 and 371. So if we were to evaluate this determinant as usual, we'd have to do 427 times 371 minus 429 times 369, which is a lot of numbers just to multiply like that. So how can we simplify this thing and make it easier? Well, we can make use of the properties where if we take either the rows and columns and subtract it from each other, it gives us the same determinant. Okay, so let's do that. What we're going to do is we're going to take column 2, okay, column 2, and from column 2, we're going to subtract column 1. So what I mean is, column 1 stays the same, so we have 427 and 369. And then in column 2, we're going to have 429 minus 427. And then we're going to have 371 minus 369. We have subtracted column 2, we have subtracted column 1 from column 2. And what this gives us is 427, and then 429 minus 427 is just 2, and then 369, and then 371 minus 369 is 2 as well. So we can now make use of that property again. We can subtract things even further. So what we can do is now we can take row 2 and we can subtract row 1 from it. Row 1, okay, 427, and subtract row 2 from it. So it will be 427 minus 369, and then it'll be 2, and then minus 2. And then row 2 will remain the same, 369 and 2. So what this is equal to is 427 minus 369 is 58. We have 58, and then 2 minus 2 is 0, and then 369 and 2. So if we want to evaluate that, it's a very simple matter to evaluate that. It's just 58 times 2, and then minus 0 times 369. So this is just 116. So just by using the property of being able to swap around the rows and the columns and subtract the row from the other row, and using all of those properties, we're able to, in this manner, simplify our computational effort to calculate this determinant. So thank you very much for watching.